everybody, and welcome to The View from the Top. We are live. It is July the 16th, and we have got such an exciting show for you today. We've got such great news we're going to be sharing. We've got such a great case study to share with you. There is so much going on in the show today. You are going to love it, I promise. We are going to go all the way from 1698, that's right, 1698, through to 2025 and beyond. How incredible is that? We have got backstage, we have got our friends and colleagues from LSEG, the London Stock Exchange Group, from Newland Chase and from Benivo, and we're going to be talking about one platform, real impact inside LSEG's unified mobility ecosystem. It is a fascinating journey they've been going on. We've got Dushy and Swarna there backstage about to join us. You will find it amazing what they have achieved, and it's a fascinating story. But not only that, we are also going to be sharing with you a whole lot of information about MI, mobility intelligence, where AI meets global mobility. It is going to be absolutely fascinating. So you know how it works, everybody. Join in the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us who you are, where you are, what's going on in the world. We want to hear your views as we go forward. We are available. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube. And we are also available on Spotify as a podcast. So it's a really, really fascinating discussion we've got coming forward for you later on today. So we've also got CPE codes. They are available. You can get them from Worldwide ERC. You can get your CPE codes from SHRM. You can get them from HRCI. And many, many thanks to our good friends at Worldwide ERC for giving us those CPE codes. And indeed our very good friends at Rocket Mortgage for getting us the HRCI and the SHRM code. So absolutely fascinating stuff is coming forward today. And next week, we've got another really fascinating conversation. Next week, we're going to be talking about HCL, one of the largest technology companies in the world and one of the largest programs in the world, how they are driving global mobility efficiency at scale. So do make sure you join us next week when we have Suresh Balan from HCL on to talk us through all the fascinating stuff they are doing. Meanwhile, we're going to be talking about what's going on in the wonderful world of global mobility. Let's just start off with our breaking news. So there we have it. Congratulations to everyone who's been promoted this week, everyone who's got a new job, and there's lots of jobs out there. So if you are looking, then there's lots of jobs out there. If you've got a bit of news you want to share with the industry, let us know and we'll make sure we promote it. And if you've got a job opportunity you're looking to fill, again, let us know and we will do whatever we can to promote it. Meanwhile, we have got a very special update for you today. Julia cannot be with us. We're not doing an immigration update this week, but we are going to be talking about mobility intelligence. This is a real game changer. And to talk about it, I'm super excited. We've got backstage the founder, the CEO of Benivo, Nitsan Udan. So you know how it works. Let's hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome onto our stage and to talk about mobility intelligence, Nitsan Udan. Nitsan, how you doing? I know it's exciting times.
Absolutely. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Nitsan, I know you did a LinkedIn post yesterday regarding mobility intelligence that I know loads of people commented on, and I know there's a reveal coming next week. But so I suppose we're in the teaser time now. But tell us, what's it all about? What is mobility intelligence? Tell us about the concept.
So this is, as you said, this is not just another feature, another product, another use of AI. This is a revolution to how we work in global mobility. And the key question I want to answer first is why now? And the reason why now is for two reasons. First, for years, we've been seeing the trend. The demand is going up for mobility and the resources are going down. And expectations are that we will be strategic, not administrative. And that now accelerated by a lot over the last few months. We've done a survey with our change maker, asking them, what are you hearing from your C-level, from your executive leadership, CHRO, CEO, about using AI? 74% of them said this is more than it used to be just 3 months ago. There is a lot of pressure. And we share that data that Julia on Slocall shared with us last week, right, about a survey by McKinsey that showed that HR is the lowest in adoption of AI, 14%, only less than half than the next one at the bottom, not talking about those that are leading there. And this is going to change now. This is going to change because that pressure that's coming from leadership, we have to get answers to it. We were talking to one client of us who was telling us, I'm now being measured how many times every day I'm using AI.
Yeah, I mean, AI is not anymore. It's like food. It's like drink. It's like oxygen. It's there. We can't live without it, or we won't be able to live without it.
Yes, but yet HR are not giving the tools, right? HR are not being given the budget to provide those solutions. It's not that they don't want to. They're just very dependent on their vendors and on their partners. And we've listened to that. And based on that, we've built a set of tools. It's not just one capability. It's a platform of capabilities that allows us to keep adding more and more capabilities. If you think about it, it's like the App Store, right? So there are a few apps that we are going live with already, but we'll be adding those and we'll be adding them fast. And each of those will bring relevant use cases for global mobility. So maybe we watch a short video, 40 seconds, to get us into the mood.
Absolutely, that tells us a bit about it. And then I'm going to be a bit inquisitive and ask you a few questions. So let's find out, first of all.
MI, where AI meets mobility. Are you struggling with endless employee queries? There's MI for that. Do you need a quick response to leadership on the ROI of mobility? There's MI for that. Is policy confusion turning into escalations? There's MI for that. Do you need a fast estimate of your immigration visa timeline? There's MI for that. You're not an IT expert. You're not an AI expert. You're a human mobility expert. MI, where AI meets mobility. The new way of working for mobility professionals. There's MI for that. Only from Benivo.
Okay, so there's some pretty big statements in that. We're saying that this is, groundbreaking, this is revolutionary, all the things that we're saying, this is changing the way we work. Let me just challenge you a bit. I mean, tell me about it. What's it actually going to do? Give me some concrete examples of how it's going to change our lives as mobility professionals. What's it actually going to do for us?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's think about some of the tasks that at the moment we are doing it as mobility team that are stopping us from moving from the operational work to the strategic work. For example, we need to do an immigration assessment, right? We know we have a case, and again, this was an example brought to us by a client. I have someone going from the UK to Malaysia, and we are needing to figure out exactly what's the latest and what do we need there. So there's always a debate in the team, and there are this and that, and maybe we'll go to an immigration provider just to do the assessment, not to get yet the visa. And that all takes us a lot of time and money. We've changed that, right? We built a solution that in 5 clicks and in under 1 minute, we get an answer. And that answer is accurate because we built it to make sure to prioritize accuracy, right? Because what's unique about MI, right? What is it's the I, right? Represent the AI. Well, what is the M? It's making it mobility specific. It's making it is a set of technology advancement that are turning every mobility professional to a prompt engineer without the need to become a prompt engineer.
Okay, that sort of comes on to my next question, because I mean, obviously there's ChatGPT out there, which everybody's got access to, but people have got concerns about ChatGPT. I mean, I use it all the time. I think it's amazing, but there's people have got concerns. One is you've got to know how to ask the right question, and we're not really trained as prompt engineers. But the other thing is, if you're not careful, it can hallucinate and give you answers you're not sure about. So I suppose I've got various questions for you. One is, how reliable is it? The other is, how quick is it? The other is, how secure is it? And also, I suppose, what's unique about it? So just tell me, a bit about why this isn't just ChatGPT, why this is a whole new level.
All right, so we'll start with security, because I think that's a critical part, and we've designed it with a security-first methodology, which is how we build all our technology, and making sure we protect the client data, everything stays confidential, and we make sure we protect our clients' PII, personal identifiable information. So some of the genius solutions that came from our technologies team were how to separate the PII from the actual data, how to make sure none of that is being used. And once they've managed to solve that, it unlocked the ability, for example, to have a conversation with our data. I don't need anymore to just look at a report or look at a dashboard. I can just ask, right? Any question that my leadership is asking me, I just ask, and within you ask time, a few seconds, 30 seconds, less than that, I'll get the answer and I'll get the data. So security was the first thing that we wanted to make sure, and we're only using the enterprise level security that you would expect from a partner like us. Then we went into solving the accuracy, and we looked into why do some people struggle with AI. And we've been one of the early adopters of that as a company internally. So we have a lot of knowledge and expertise of how to use AI and how to create prompt libraries and how to train our teams. And then we realized, but there's no chance that everyone will be able to catch up on that. This is required. This is like taking another degree. And our clients are mobility experts. They need to be mobility experts. So we took all of that knowledge that we have about accuracy and brought it into that tool. So you don't need to worry about how you ask the question. You don't need to worry about to tell the not to hallucinate and what to do if it's not sure about the answer, and what to tell the prompt in terms of which parameters and some of the models to use, right? So we run the solution on multiple models, and we compare the results, and we do it all in the background. No need to worry about that. You don't need to become an AI engineer, prompt engineer, IT. But that's
interesting. It's on multiple platforms, so it's not just looking at one platform, is looking at various. So effectively the AI is checking itself as well, or different AIs checking each other.
Exactly. That's one of the things that are happening. It's purpose-built agents that are able to deliver very, very high accuracy. We've been working with extensive testing internally and with our clients. And of course, there's always things to improve, and we improve them, but the accuracy is much higher than the accuracy we're getting when people are doing the job. And we're talking here about simple administrative tasks. We're not talking here about replacing us. We're talking about allowing us to be more human, so we can actually spend time with our stakeholders, with our leadership. We can come with data. We spend time with our employees, not spending time on the work we're doing behind the scenes in order to compare data from different tables and try to reconcile it and try to figure out what's the cost allocation. All of that is now being solved through MIs, even policy briefing. which is something that is very, very exciting, and ability to deliver a policy brief through a digital human.
Okay, I'm just blown away here. I just want to sort of step back and talk about that. So when we say a digital human, so you're having a conversation with what looks like a real person, and the real person is giving you a policy brief, and you can have a proper conversation. You can interrupt, you can ask questions, you can take the conversation in different ways, but yet it's not a real person. It's a digital human that you can access whenever you want, 24/7, and get whatever advice.
Exactly. And Brian, this is so good that I can tell you that you're having the conversation now with my digital human and not with me.
Absolutely. I mean, it is. I know I've been privileged to see a demo of it, and I know we're going to be sharing it all with the world next week. It is quite extraordinary. In fact, it's better than a person because you can also get instant feedback in terms of how the conversation went and stuff. So it's just some of the stuff that's out there is mind blowing. I know this is just the start. I mean, one of the things that I like about it, I mean, there's two phrases that you've used in previous conversations. Like, one is that it gives us superpowers. It allows us to do our jobs just so much more efficient. I mean, just tell us a bit about superpowers and how that affects the way we work.
So the expectation today from people is to do more and with less time, and to be knowledgeable in so many areas. And we can't do it by working harder. That's or longer. That's not going to work. That's not sustainable. Maybe we put an effort for a week or 2 weeks, but not for the rest of our lives. And that's where MI is giving us those superpowers. So it can answer today, for example, all employees' inquiries. So since we launched that, we've seen when we launched that, about 40% of employee inquiries were answered by MI. Since then, we've managed to advance and iterate and add more context to our solution. And at the moment, it's answering 80% of the questions. So that's freeing up 80% of the questions that used to come to the mobility team. They are not getting those questions anymore. And we're getting it further integrated. We have, we'll announce it later, but a partnership with ServiceNow that will allow for the clients who are using it to get their answers back into ServiceNow, to get it into the tools where those questions are coming, and really to move all of the noise in order to focus on what really matters and what we want to do. And so many mobility people struggle to find the time to do.
That's amazing. This conversation is going to carry on and on. What I'm going to do now, we've got two new joiners with Benivo in the USA, and I want to bring them on to get their perspectives as well and welcome them. And then we're going to go on to talk about this amazing case study with everything that LSEG has been doing, which is absolutely incredible. So let's bring on Laurie Ryan and Meredith Morris. So welcome to Benivo. And I see you got the pink mellow today.
Yeah. Color.
Yeah, well, there we go. It's boys in blue, girls in pink. I mean, how stereotypical is that? So anyway, tell us a bit yourself. Meredith, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to. And first, hey, everybody out there. I've been joining this show for I feel like a million years. So it's super to be on this side. So say hello. Anyway, I'm Meredith Morris and thrilled to be here. I'm based in Houston, Texas. My background is all in mobility, a little over 25 years and thinking growing. And I just really kind of fell into it like most everyone else. But I love it. So background in the RMC space, employer of record. I've done international outbound projects, oil and gas, infrastructure pipeline, even from the staffing element of that piece, and then a lot of the core service lines that many of the organizations use. So I'm a real estate agent licensed in Texas. I've done corporate housing, destination services, household goods, kind of have it all. I'm very diverse.
Been there,
very diverse.
Done that, got the t-shirt. Well done.
Yeah, every t-shirt. Big one.
And Laurie, tell us a bit about yourself. Now, you're not in Texas, are you? You're a bit further north.
Just a titch further north in the lovely Minneapolis, Minnesota. So thrilled to be a part of this team. Just beyond excited with everything that Benivo is doing. And I've been a big fan of this show, like Meredith, for many years. My path, a little unusual. I am a former TV news and weather producer who, like Meredith, fell into global mobility just over a decade ago. And my primary role, I worked at 2 RMCs, primarily with IT implementations. So that was everything from security, integrations, exception tools, escalation tools. Again, tools that are more on the reactive side, as opposed to, I love where Benivo's effort is on the proactive side, and additionally helping build cost estimates. Another piece that I was always involved in was contract and fees, and learning how to get all those set up. So that's kind of my background. I'm just beyond grateful to be here.
And I know you've got a real passion for AI. I've seen some of the stuff you've put out there before you joined us. I mean, tell us a bit about your passion for AI.
You bet. About 2.5 years ago, I had heard about ChatGPT, and for the life of me, I went home and I couldn't figure out how to find it. And I'm like, if I'm having this trouble just even finding what to do, I know my friends are. So I started just having friends over and teaching them how to use the tools. And from there, it grew. So for the last 2.5 years, I've been leading workshops, getting people started with generative AI tools, things that they can do that very same day. And in this environment, I've learned just as important as interacting with these tools and asking questions and the conversations is having the background from the people who are more experts or more experienced to build those prompts, and prompt for you can have tremendous results. So
it's amazing. So we're going to move on in a moment to talk to our friends from LSEG. But before we do, we've been talking about AI a lot. And one thing that Nitsan is really, really important is, of course, there is a big reveal coming up of the technology. And I know it's corporate only, and I know there's some dates set for next week. But why don't you just tell people a bit about the big reveal, the timings, and hopefully we can just post something about that on LinkedIn too for everybody.
Absolutely. So if you haven't registered that, more than, I think, since we launched the campaign yesterday, more than 140 companies have already signed up for that big reveal.
Yeah.
Super excited about this. There's a lot of buzz happening, and for good reason. I promise definitely. We will not be sharing recordings of that session. So if you want to watch it, you will need to attend. You have the link now on screen, or go to our homepage. You'll find it there, or go to the LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you'll see it there. There are 3 sessions on different time zone, covering from Australia and India and APAC all the way to EMEA, to the US and West Coast. So really excited about that. And I'll just say here, big welcome to Meredith and Laurie. Very excited to have you in our client development team, working with new clients and bringing Benivo to them. So looking forward for what's coming next year.
Okay, so we're going to move on. But people out there, if you do one thing this week, is make sure you listen to one of these, or watch one of these big reveals later on this week, next week on Tuesday and Thursday. They are awesome. So anyway, we're now going to move on. I'm really excited. We've got backstage, we've got Dushy and Swarna from LSEG. We've got Joe from Newland Chase, and we've got Tina from Benivo. So everybody, let's say goodbye to Nitsan, to Laurie and Meredith, and welcome the others to our stage in the time-honored fashion of hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. so excited to have you all on stage. And this is it's fascinating. But let's just start off with the introduction. I'll start with you, Swarna, if I may. Just tell us a bit about yourself and your role.
Well, firstly, Brian, thank you so much for inviting us here. It's a real pleasure to join you guys. My name is Swarna Vaddi. I'm the head of global mobility, along with a few other things at LSEG. Been there for about 2.5 years now. My background is actually reward. I'm a reward person, really, by trade. So being head of GM at a FTSE 30 company is slightly new for me, I would say, but it's been an exciting couple of years, and you guys are going to hear about the transformation that we've been doing with Joe and Tina and a few other of our external partners over the next 55 minutes.
Welcome, and we're delighted to have you on the show, Swarna, and of course as a client. And it's amazing that what started in a coffee house as a FTSE 30 company. I mean, it's like the Starbucks of its time. So we'll come into that in more detail in a moment. But Dushy, tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Brian, and thank you for having us on the show. I'm Dushy. I'm originally from Sri Lanka. I joined the London Stock Exchange in Sri Lanka as a grad. Since then, I've had different roles in our people function. Moved here to London in 2022, and I now manage the global mobility transformation stuff as well as the team. And I'm excited to be here.
Cool. And Tina, okay, so you're obviously a colleague of mine at Benivo, but tell us a bit about yourself for people who don't know you.
Yes, so I'm Tina Popa, and I'm a client success manager at Benivo. My background is predominantly global mobility, just shy of 17 years. And for the last 8 years, I've been in mobility tech. And similar to Laurie and Meredith, I fell into mobility, loved it. And I've been an expat myself several times in New York and Dubai. So I have a full round experience of being on the other side and also being in the Big Four and relocation side as well.
Cool. And last but by no means least, Joe, you're with Newland Chase. I know Newland Chase are very sort of, we love you as a supply chain partner of Benivo's. But tell us a bit about yourself, Joe.
Sure. Firstly, Brian, thank you for the invite. It's very much appreciated. It's good to be here. I am Joe Saunders. I am the Director of Client Relationship Management. I've been in the Newland Chase network for about 8 years now, and I work really closely with the team that manage some of our key client relationships, and one of them being LSEG.
Okay, so let's get into it. That's the introductions bit done. But let's find out a bit about LSEG. Dushy, if I can start with you, just tell us a bit about, I've alluded a couple of times this sort of 1698 malarkey. I appreciate that was well before any of our time, but just tell us a bit about the history of the company and what it does. Obviously, it's very, very different now to what it was then. But tell us a bit about it and also about mobility there.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people do have that question in terms of, what does the London Stock Exchange do and where is it actually based? The company started in 1698, as you've mentioned, as Jonathan's Coffee House. But what we say as the beginning of the kind of regulated exchange was in 1801. And that's when this regulated kind of exchange came into being. Since then, in October 2007 is when we became the London Stock Exchange Group with the acquisition of the Milan Stock Exchange. And today we operate in 170 countries. We provide services in 170 countries and operate in about 60. So, spread all across the world. My introduction was I started off in Sri Lanka. So we have people like that all over the world working for us. So definitely not just an exchange, like maybe our title kind of goes. We have 4 main business divisions covering all of these services. So the kind of the flagship trading arm is the markets division. Then we have data and analytics. We have our FTSE Russell business, which is the indexing businesses. And then we have risk intelligence. So, and I obviously coupled all of that with our tech and engineering, as well as our corporate functions.
So pretty major company in the financial services industry. I mean, incredible. As I said, FTSE 30 from start. It's not. People think it's the London Stock Exchange, but LSEG is so much bigger than all that. But let me just find out a bit about global mobility there. Can we just find out a bit, either you or Swarna, tell us a bit about global mobility at LSEG?
At LSEG. Yeah, so maybe I'll start off and hand over to Swarna for comment. So LSEG's approach to global mobility pre-2023 was a bit varied in terms of experience. And when we started this journey, the customer experience was the heart of everything that we wanted to do. So it started off with a competitive RFP. We wanted to move away from our legacy providers to this new setup to build for the future of LSEG. And that started off obviously with the signing off of our framework. So we had framework, we went to RFP, we onboarded 3 new providers, 2 of whom obviously is on the conversation today. And then we worked on ways of working. How do we operate not just as an internal team, but how do we kind of partner with these 3 new providers and offer that best seamless kind of colleague experience to people who move at LSEG. Since then, I think this year has been, kind of pivotal for us because we went live with a lot of these changes and ways of working this year. And then we also, onboarded some new internal team members building for that future in terms of a sustainable and scalable model. So that's a nutshell of the journey since 2023.
And Swarna, tell us about your perspective on that, because obviously you did 3 RFPs in 1 year, which is pretty heavy duty. And you moved from, I don't know how many providers you had, but I don't know if you can share, but you moved from more to fewer. So tell us a bit your perspective on that whole period.
I think all of this is about colleagues and customers, right? So, I've seen Beth is in the chat. Hi, Beth Nielsen's in the chat. Hi, Beth. Beth has been with us for the whole time. I still remember our first conversations with Beth back when we were starting to think about potentially bringing on a new external partner for our ecosystem, essentially, because that is what Benivo is for us. It's a core hub. It's a one place where colleagues can go and then go to Newland Chase or then go to our other providers. I think yes, the RFPs were heavy, right? We needed to do it. I think there's the broader context on this in terms of the why is important, and I'm happy to talk you guys through it. I think when we're proposing any type of change, we know that change is difficult. And so when we want to do it, we need to make sure there's a really, really good why. And I think the why here was really threefold. Number one, and it kind of worked back, we work backwards from this. Ultimately, our overall aim is to improve the colleague experience. That's the fundamental aim for everything that we do. Now, much like Tina, I've lived in a couple of places. Dushy was obviously an expat too. And so we kind of brought personal experience to some of the work that we were doing in terms of thinking through the number of touch points that a colleague and their family, because their family is as important as the colleague here, obviously, in everything that we do in GM, the number of touch points and things that they have to collect, information, data. I was speaking to a colleague this morning who has to get an English version of their degree certificate, for example, and that's taking a long time to do. So there's all kinds of different things and pressures that colleagues need to do as part of their experience of moving across an international border with our company. Now, our job is to make that as easy, as slick, as seamless as we possibly can. And one route of doing that is technology, ultimately. And we were super impressed with the technology that Benivo had, I think, and has, right? And it continues to...
See nothing yet. What's coming?
We are very much looking forward to seeing MI next week, and we're, signed up for that. So I think with all of this stuff, it's what do we want the colleague experience to be? And then working backwards from that, I think from a team perspective, we had 2 other goals. Number one was around efficiency, both in terms of operational efficiency and secondly, in terms of cost efficiency. And thirdly, it was around compliance. So we know that there's a lot of data that moves between all of our various external partners. We wanted that to be as smooth as possible so that we can be as compliant as possible. And so Benivo allowed us the essentially the platform, and Joe as one of our other external partners, allowed us with that platform to meet those three aims. And that's essentially why we did it. Ultimately, the why is colleague experience. How do we make it as seamless as possible while also improving some internal stuff as well?
Okay, that's amazing. So let's just move then from the why to the how. And I'll sort of move to you, Tina, bring you into the conversation. How did Benivo help pull this together? In fact, even before the how, I want to add in the what as well. What is an integrated ecosystem? What does it mean in practice compared to what it was before? So do the what, a bit about the what and the how there, Tina, and then we'll bring Joe in as well.
So from the what perspective, is basically having a single point of data, being able to share that initiation process with all the vendors, having a centralized, not only a data point, but being able to push data from a Workday perspective as well into the platform, eliminating a lot of the admin and creating a lot of automation. The how is a big conversation, right? It's how did we do that? And to Swarna's point is we listened to the why. And that was really important. We listened to why LSEG wanted those, and we had to look ahead. So not just looking at the solution that we can build within 8 months, but what is that solution going to look like 2 years down the line for LSEG as well? So some of the things that we took into account was we have a HRIS system integration. How is that data going to sit on the platform? And then when we initiate the vendors, and Joe, I'm going to loop you in a question here shortly. What does that data sit like in their platform? We have 3 vendors with 3 different platforms, and how does that data look like on their side?
From the 3 vendors, that's an RMC vendor,
a tax and immigration.
So if you like, it's the big 3.
Yes.
Of mobility, with the technology sitting independently above it.
Yeah, and in between that as well, the Benivo platform, we had the cost estimates and how we can automate a lot of the vendor pricing into our cost estimates to make sure that the cost estimates are accurate as possible. But then if we look at the sustainability and the scalability of it, LSEG would also like to look at actuals to estimates in the future. So let's look at how that data will sit on the platform and how we could actually retain that information back to give them data-led decision making was really important and part of that conversation that led a lot of the drivers of our solutions and on longevity as well. So
okay. Let me loop Joe into the conversation here. So we're talking about the how, about how the ecosystem works. And obviously, Joe, you're with Newland Chase and you're integrated with us. Tell us a bit about how that's working from your perspective.
It's working really well, Brian. I think from the outset, LSEG were really clear with what they were trying to achieve, but not only that, it's what they expected from each vendor. So I think where Tina and I and Benivo and Newland Chase are working so closely together, it's made the process a bit more seamless because we're all working towards the same goal, right? So at the end of the day, we're just coming together to just help LSEG reach their goal, which they've been super transparent about. Okay.
And this integration, how does it work? I'm assuming there's APIs, and that's So tell us a bit about that. Joe, from your perspective, and Tina from yours.
So the API, basically, it's connecting the Benivo system to the Newland Chase case management system. So what we're looking to do, we're looking to capture key data points. Now, with those data points, we need to, first of all, understand what is it exactly we need from an initiation perspective, but then what do we do with that data? Where does it go? What's needed for reporting purposes? There's a lot of considerations, but from a Newland Chase perspective, the main consideration was the data being shared with that API, but then also to go that step further, what we send them back to Benivo.
Correct. So sending that information back as milestones keeps not only the mobility consultants up to date, but also the employee about what's happening in their move. Again, keeping everyone accountable and making sure that we're sharing the latest information in real time.
Okay, let me bring Dushy back into the conversation. So we've talked about the how and a bit about the what, but I want to understand a bit more on, if you like, the actual process itself. I mean, LSEG had to manage an onboarding and a rollout, not just obviously in one location, but it was across global teams. So tell us, how did you actually manage the onboarding and the rollout across those global teams?
So I look at that in like two aspects, Brian. First is obviously all of the good stuff regarding the tech that Tina and Joe kind of spoke of. So we finished our RFP, and then we all came onto the table with like, what does the future of that tech look like? And I think it was Benivo and the team behind Benivo's tech teams that actually drew that model for us. And then it was, getting that buy-in from all of our new partners. And all of them put their hands up to say, look, we want to be involved in this. We want to help make some of those decisions. Once that was agreed, then you come to how LSEG operates. So LSEG obviously is in a heavily regulated environment. We needed to make sure we have all of our internal compliance and governance processes completed. So that took some time. And I think, Tina, Joe, and the rest of our partners have been very nice about it, have helped us and sorted some of the issues that we may have actually raised. So that was the first part of it. The second part, obviously, which I think is the tougher one, is the behavior, the mindsets, the ways of working. And all of that is just an evolution. And we've now started off with it, but we are continuing to obviously improve. So it was focusing on how does Joe and Tina interact just as individual partners, but how do they also work with our internal teams, not just global mobility, but wider than just global mobility, just day to day first, and then obviously thinking about the future. For our internal LSEG team, again, it was a change in the ways that we would work. We can now rely on our partners to give us that right advice, that right expertise, and help us actually move away from just thinking about today's activities to what can we do for the future. So two kinds of aspects to that, the tech bit, which I think I would leave to the experts to talk about, but also that second piece about ways of working, framework, and the future.
Okay. Swarna, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, just to add to that, Brian, I don't think we can underestimate the amount of training that Tina did in partnership with Dushy and the team, just to make sure that Benivo was a new product, obviously, internally at LSEG, and it was actually the first piece of GM technology that was HRBP facing, colleague facing, and people leader facing as well at some point. So it's important to understand that actually this was probably the first time that we've ever launched a piece of GM tech, as it were, to our colleague population, regardless of the role. So, I know Tina has invested a lot of time and continues to, so we thank her for that. And the team over at Benivo continues to essentially embed, Dushy's exactly right, behaviors, but also some of that is around how do we make sure that colleagues self-serve and know that when we have this great product, that they actually use it. So some of that's training, some of that is making sure that we're pushing people to use it, right, and encouraging self-service. But some of it is also, once they start to use it, they're more likely to use it because of the features that it already has. And obviously, we'll talk about what's next at some point. But I think the MI launch that you guys are doing next week will really help in terms of driving usage up. Not that we're seeing really good usage actually right now, but I think it's important for colleagues in particular to know that they have that central hub that then goes out to all of the various external partners that we have.
And how are colleagues feeling about that? If you compared to sort of that was then to this is now, how different is the colleague feedback on the experience?
Well, we're measuring it. So, Tina mentioned earlier about a data-led program. That is one of our aims. We want to make sure that we're leading our program through data insights rather than, gut feel or anecdotal, anecdotes, as it were. One of our measures for that is a net promoter score. So more like a consumer score than anything else that we would see in a kind of engagement survey or anything like that. We've just launched surveys, collective surveys across the entire experience, rather than individual surveys from each external partner. Again, super important so that we know end to end how colleagues are feeling. Sentiment analysis is going to be really important to that as well. Again, through hopefully through MI as well. So I think some of this is it's a lagging indicator, but it also will help us to inform policy decisions or program development as we go forward. By the end of the year, I'll probably have a better answer to that question in terms of actual numbers, right? But we would prefer to have a data point rather than a kind of how are they feeling kind of thing, because at least then we can tie that to program outcomes as well.
Okay, and a question, just moving the conversation a little bit. I mean, obviously it was a big change, and and touch wood, it was a big success and it's gone through. But let's not kid ourselves. There's always challenges when you're doing a bit of change management, and the real test of resilience is how you actually manage those challenges, get through the change process. So, Tina, question for you is: what were the challenges that were encountered, and how were they solved or resolved?
That's a great question. So we could take it maybe from, if I take the implementation. We had obviously several vendors and several different platforms, and the answer to that was we collaborated. We let everybody have their say about their system and what they needed to get the data in properly, and then we met in the middle. It really was a collaborative approach from the get-go, and it was really about to remove chaos and give control. That was kind of the main thing for the whole implementation. We also had challenges in technology. We know that there could be some pesky bugs every now and then, and how do we react to that? So if we had a bug, we were quick to tell LSEG. We were quick to tell our partners if it affected them. But the main thing was that we always had a workaround solution so nobody would actually be without the platform. There was always a solution for the team to still utilize the Benivo platform and still initiate on the platform, so there's no disruption. And that was a very well thought out process to enable the system to keep going without having, if the API had a disruption for a few hours.
Okay. So, and then Joe, from your perspective, you were the other side of the API integrations, of the collaborations. I appreciate there were several supply chain partners. We've talked about immigration, tax, and the RMC. But from your perspective, from the immigration perspective, what was the collaboration like, and how did it all work through?
The collaboration worked really well. I think if you look historically...
Oh, we're having a bit of a sound problem, Joe, I'm afraid, with your mic. I might come back to you in a minute on that. I'm not sure what's happened there. Let's just try one more time, Joe. Do you want to try that one again?
Can you hear me okay now?
It's not good, I'm afraid. Let me bring Tina into the conversation. How did the integration work then, specific with Newland Chase?
Newland Chase have been a great partner with us from the get-go. They really, if I could say, understood the assignment from the start. They were collaborative with us. We would remove Dushy from conversations so we could just lead the API connection conversations. We also had our Benivo integration team, the Newland Chase integration team. It's not just the people that you see here on the call. There was a big team behind all of us making sure that worked successfully. And I'm happy to say that it was a success, and we're happy to partner with everyone continuously.
Yeah, I don't know, Swarna, whether we can sort of share any information about sort of the size of the volumes or anything, whether that's client confidential that we won't share. But I'd be interested to know, how many sort of things are going through this system.
So we use Benivo in two ways. So firstly, for our kind of more traditional GM assignments and relocations, but we also use the platform for what we call local immigration cases. So we employ someone in the UK, but they're from somewhere else. They still need a visa. So because we have APIs through to Newland Chase, we use Benivo to help facilitate that. And again, that's for governance reasons, really, just to make sure that we have smooth data flows and no kind of human errors as part of those data flows. I would call it a medium-sized program. I'm not going to go into numbers necessarily, but I would say it was a medium-sized program. I think Joe would probably confirm that ish. We have a lot of local immigration cases, but from a GM perspective, it's probably what we would call a medium-sized program. And just in terms of team size that manages that program, it's, I'm kind of half a head count, I would say. I have other aspects of my role.
Well,
exactly. Yeah. Dushy leads the team with 2 GM advisors, and then so it's really a headcount of 3 that manages that work. And then we now have, as Dushy said earlier, we now have people services and solutions team that works with us as part of the team to specifically help with some transactional activities, but also to manage kind of cookie cutter moves, as it were. And that just launched like a month, 6 weeks ago, something like that. Yeah. So it's a medium-sized program, but it allows what this has allowed us to do is to really take the not take the human out, right? But it's to make sure that we have the right data flows back and forth to make the experience as smooth as we can for colleagues. Dushy, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Actually, let me just move on. We've got a question coming in. I'll take this one, add this one to you, Beth, to you, Dushy, if I may. It's from Beth. She says, how long is the implementation project and how long have you been live?
So we signed off RFP back in 2024 January. So we had a full year, and we needed a full year to actually do not just the onboarding onto LSEG, but also all of the good stuff about getting the tech architecture correct among our providers and our partners, as well as LSEG. So I would say we had a good year to do all of that, and we went live with all of our providers, our new providers, and the system in November of 24. So we've had about 6 months, and that's it's only now that we're starting to see some of the metrics and the measures, actually measuring some of the stuff that we've done. We just finished, Beth, we just finished our Q2 QBR, and we had initial metrics being spoken about as well. So I would say we've just started, more to come in terms of success stories and all of that.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
We made the final decision on external partners at the end of January, maybe mid-February of 24. So all in, it probably took about 10 months to actually go live. And then I think the important thing to say there with that, though, is that it was a minimal viable product at that point, right? We are continuing to build on the work that we're doing with Benivo. That will continue. Tina, I don't know if you want to allude to some of that stuff.
Yeah, it was similar approach. Yeah, I was going to say it's not that we just connected to the partners and everyone just went home. We actually continued to collaborate. Our QBI, which was yesterday, was all the partners on the call, and we're talking about how to make the platform better, what we can do to make the employee experience better. So it's a full collaboration continuously.
So what are the outcomes, Tina, that we've seen so far?
We've seen faster, obviously, initiations into the platform, data being a lot cleaner. We've got cost estimates being a lot more accurate. And I think one of the biggest things when I'm talking to LSEG is you never were able to look at immigration numbers. You've never had an understanding of immigration numbers ever. And now you can click a button in real time and you have that data at your fingertips. From an employee platform perspective, the level of data that we can provide an assignee prior to being on assignment is invaluable. The platform can give everything from how to open a bank account or bank account services in different countries and very specific to that country location. So we're looking to build up upon that and making the employee platform even better. But then what we're super excited for is this mobility MI coming in and support even further.
I'm going to try and bring Joe back into the conversation. We did have a sound problem with you, Joe, but I'm being told that it settles down after a few seconds, so we'll bear with it. But I will cut you off if it's awful, but hopefully it'll be okay. But I want to know from your perspective. I mean, obviously, as immigration attorneys, providers, you liaise with different platforms. What's it been like from your perspective collaborating with the Benivo platform?
It's been a really great experience, if I'm honest, and it's opened our eyes maybe to a better way of working, a smarter way of working, right? It's giving us opportunities to work better between vendors. If you look at even if you go beyond the Benivo platform and what they're doing, it's connecting all of LSEG's vendors together. Like, we are working towards the same goal here. So
and we are going to have to leave you, Joe. I'm really sorry, but some sound gremlin has crept into the microphone there. But let's just move on then. What is next? I mean, Swarna, what's the vision? I mean, in our last few minutes, where do you think we're going to as the next stages?
Well, I think there's three things. So the first thing is actually measuring what we did for phase one. Super important. That will inform what we do next, and we're kind of getting there with that. I think we've had, over 6 months for the product to bed in, for colleagues to be using it, and also for us to get used to what it can actually do and the data that it provides, the reporting that we can get out of it, and also for our external partners to same thing, right, in terms of reporting. Phase two will really be about two things. Firstly, around governance and data. So, Tina mentioned earlier about budget to actuals. What does that look like? That's going to be quite a big build, actually, just because we're looking across many different data flows, all of which are held in different ways, reported in different ways. So the next phase of the cost estimate is, what does the cost estimate mean in reality? That's really important to us, and we're going to build that in, and hopefully that will be useful for other clients as well. I assume it will be, but we'll do it for us first. I think the other thing is going to be around exception tracking. So we want to make sure that we have a really good, and I keep using the term data flow, but it's the crux of everything that we do in terms of the Benivo platform. But exception tracking in terms of approvals and how all of that stuff works internally, and using Benivo as the platform for that rather than emails, which is the traditional way of doing it. And then the third thing is really around our objectives for the year, one of which is sustainability. And we want to, again, that goes to reporting and tracking stuff like CO2 emissions. What are the things that we can be doing and using in terms of data that can then inform the program? But again, using Benivo as the hub for that data collection. And then, we've talked a lot about AI today, and I think it's an important theme that we are definitely seeing it's not a want. I think it's a need now for it. I think it's, I'm excited, as I mentioned, to attend the big reveal, as you guys are calling it, next week. I think it's going to be super interesting to see what that looks like, and how actually it can improve not just the way we work, but, as I mentioned, the colleague experience, because ultimately that's what we're here for.
Okay, we're pretty much out of time. One of the things we didn't actually use on the show today, but one of the things that I like about AI, and you'll find this in MI, is it turns data into conversations. You don't have to get reports. You just ask it a question. So you might be asking it about, how many people did we move last quarter? Yeah. And then you ask a further question, say, well, of those, how many were, went to Milan, or how many were, female, or how many, whatever questions you want to ask it. And you just have those conversations. It is extraordinary stuff. We are unfortunately out of time. So all that really remains is I'm going to bring back Meredith. I'm going to bring back Laurie. I'll bring back Nitzan if he's there. I'm not sure if he is actually. So, but I'll bring back the team. It's been great having everybody on the show. We are now out of time. But we are back next week when we're going to talk about how HL is driving global mobility efficiency at scale. But also for the corporates out there, of course, we have these amazing big reveal being shown live next week on Tuesday and Thursday. So do make sure you have registered for those on the Benivo website. All that remains, here is Nitsan. We have Nitsan too. So the gang's all here. All that really remains is for me to say goodbye and thank you so much to our special guests, to Swarna, to Dushy, to Joe, to Tina, to our new colleagues, to Laurie and to Meredith, to Nitsan as ever, and of course to the wonderful Tally for all the hard work she does putting this show together. My name's Brian Friedman. This has been The View from the Top. Have a good week, everybody, and we will see you again this time next week. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.